you go to school at? That college? What'd you do with college?
Yeah, I forgot to go to college. Just wasn't in the cards. It was I'm from a small farm town. Parents didn't have a lot of money, and I was kind of a workaholic. So right out of high school, I just jumped into working, and I worked for my stepdad at his landscape contracting company. And in my early 20s, I wound up buying him out of half the company and took it in a different direction. So yeah, just kind of forgot to go to college.
Has that affected you at all in your career? Or?
Yeah, I mean it's made me had to work a lot harder than most, I guess. But I think it's also kind of shaped me as to who I am today, and it's made me really appreciate the success I've had over my lifetime, and just knowing that I've from day one I've had to kind of grind it out and just outwork everybody.
That's awesome. Because I mean, like coming out of like school and stuff and college, they always say like you gotta have an education to make it in this world, and for you to just come out and plainly say, I've done it without it, and that's awesome, man.
I wouldn't tell my daughters they don't need it, but yeah, I mean it's not for everybody. But you have to make a choice, right? I mean, you can go to school and then come out of school and get a good job and job placement and work your way from there, or you gotta really grind it out, and but you can't you can't just not go to college and expect to have it made. So
yeah, what would you say like when you first got out of high school? What was like? Did you explore first? Did you know right away what you wanted to do? What was it like?
Yeah, I think the entrepreneur bug was planted into me early on. I watched my uncles who both owned their own businesses. I was raised, with my stepdad who owned his own business. So I kind of always knew that I wanted to own my own business. So, but yeah, when I came out of high school, just went straight to work for him. And like I said, eventually bought him out of half the company and then took it from there.
And how long do you think it took you before it just rose, before it went to the top? Did it take you a while to build, or was you just taking over and pretty much it was already set to go?
No, actually, in that situation, I wound up marrying my high school sweetheart, and that didn't work out. And amongst all that, I wound up having to dissolve the business. And at that time, I went to work for another gentleman. He owned a couple of cell phone stores. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just know I needed a clean start and a clean break in life to try to figure everything out again. And I just kind of fell in love with that business. And then over the next probably 15 years, he and I grew it together to where I eventually bought him out of it. And when I bought him out, we had about 16 stores between Missouri and Kansas. And after that, I grew it to 120 stores across the nation, and with about anywhere between 800 to 1,000 employees at any point in time. So the landscape contracting part of my life was a very short period in my early 20s. But my bigger story was within the AT&T retail world.
And so from going from that one field to the next, what was that like?
Yeah, that was interesting because I knew how to put bids together. I knew how to dig ditches. I knew how to do different contracting type stuff, but I had no idea how to. I didn't think I had any skill set to sell anything. And when I got into that business, I just kind of realized that, man, this was kind of cool. Not so much the selling of phones, but being able to help people and help them to solve problems, right? I mean, if you're coming into a cell phone store, it's usually a problem. Either you need a new phone, you're not happy with your current service, or something's going wrong. So it was really cool to bring those people in and just kind of figure out what it is that they needed and help them.
What was the most common thing you came across when you first started working in the cell phone store?
Yeah, well, and this is going way back to where the flip phone was just created, But the biggest thing there is everybody had these analog phones, and they had just launched the digital network, and the phones were getting smaller. So, we just had a lot of how do I get the same quality I have in this large phone into the smaller phone? And then the different networks were still building out. So it was a lot of my phone doesn't work here. Your phone doesn't work there. So it's not like it is today, where obviously the networks are pretty solid and seamless. It was a rough start in the business.
How do you feel about that? I mean, you've seen the phone go from this big old phone, flip phone, to what it is now.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, when I started in the business, if anybody could have told me what it would eventually get to in an iPhone, I would have laughed at them. There's no way I could have fathomed that you're literally carrying around everything you need in life, your computer, access to everything, how you pay for things, just everything within that device. Not in a million years would have I believed that it could come to that. But it was a fun industry to be in and watch all that happen. So,
were you a part of it when it was actually like social media was becoming it, or were you long gone by then?
Oh yeah, I mean, this was back in 1994 is when I started in it, and oh yeah, this is like it was just a phone that made phone calls. I was in it when we started text messaging. The first big thing was phone-to-phone phone calling, where if you called another Southwestern Bell telephone phone, it was free. That was huge. But yeah, then we got text messaging, and nobody thought that would really last. And then BlackBerry came onto the scene, where you could do emails through a phone or through a device, and the evolution of it was a heck of a ride.
Now, in your opinion, would you say it has helped us come closer, or has it pushed us further away?
It's funny. I spent the first 25 years of my life convincing you can't live without this, and you need one of these. And I'm probably going to spend the next 25 years of my life convincing you to put it down and pay attention to those the things that are around you and the people that are around you, because unfortunately, this thing steals all of our attention and all of our focus these days. And as great as it's been, I think it's been today. I think it can play a harmful role in your life if you allow it.
I mean, that's so true, because pretty much you can't go anywhere nowadays and not see somebody glued to their phone. Even when you, like, right now, as we're in the holidays, as we're speaking, like, you go to even at the kitchen table, you see people, your daughter, Zoom, just glued in, and you're trying to have a conversation with them, and like, can you please put that down for a minute? And then they get all mad. Yeah. It's like...
Yeah, I was just on a vacation with a bunch of friends, and it broke my heart that we were down in Florida. That we were all on a beach, and I saw the moms and the dads kind of sitting in the beach chairs. The kids are out there playing, and every one of the mom and dads was on the phone. And I'm like, guys, this is what I'm talking about in life. Put that down. Your kids are playing. There is an ocean out in front of you. The sun is setting. It's gorgeous. You paid money to travel here. I was like, knock it off. Put them down. And they were all Christmas shopping, right? I mean, we were down there for like a Black Friday or Cyber Saturday or Cyber Monday, whatever the heck it was. And so they were all on their phones shopping. And I'm like, man.
Like, dude, we're on the beach. We're on vacation. We're supposed to be enjoying ourselves. And you guys are still in that phone.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was saying, and you see it all too often just out in public, right? I mean, nobody has conversations anymore. You get on an elevator, everybody's just buried in their phones. It's all about the screen in your face, and nobody talks to each other anymore. You're standing in line at Starbucks or anywhere else, and there's no conversation started. It's just everybody is just all focused on...
They're glued to it, man. They're glued to the phone. And then I say there's a positive to it now, because... you have a lot of platforms that you can use, and that's how this is even possible. And now, I mean, I don't know if you're hip to DoorDash, but that's become, like, out here in Ohio, it has become, since COVID, huge. I mean, everywhere you go, pretty much you'll see a different DoorDash person, and it's like it's like making money is so much easier now because of the phone. And just as technology continues to grow, man. So I'd say that's a positive.
This thing can be an absolute blessing. It makes life so much easier. Like you said, it makes the ability to make money easier. It really can be such a great positive tool. But you got to control it. You just can't let it control you. And I think in the world we live in today, too many people are letting this thing control them. And I think that if they got control over it and used it as a positive tool in their life, stay connected with those that you love, but yet stay off of it when you're trying, and don't use it to trash another person or to beat somebody down, but it can be a very, very powerful tool, positive tool, if you focus on it.
Yeah, I started reading this book called The Limitless Mind, and he pretty much talks about in the book, like how much of the phone is a distraction. And like since I read this book, I've just I took his notes and decided I'm going to put the phone down, and then pretty much do what he does. Is I won't look at my notifications on Facebook until I'm at home. I'll open up the laptop, the actual computer, and then look at it when I get home. That way I can interact with the beautiful world around us.
Yeah.
And that, well, as I can say, being away from, drawing myself away from it, you can, it's like a whole different world. You see it all around you. It's like, holy, you can't even have a conversation with somebody without, with the ear pods they have now. It's so hard to know if somebody's talking to you or talking to somebody on their phone. I get so confused anymore. I'd be hearing somebody talking, it look like they're talking to themselves. But it turns out they have the ear pod in their ear, and I'm like, oh, because there's been a lot of times where I've been out and about, and I'll just start talking to this person, and they'll be like, hold on, this guy's trying to talk to me because he's on the phone. And I'm like, oh, you're on the phone. I thought you were talking to me. I'm over here answering all his questions, thinking he's talking to me or something. I'm like, dude, come on. Have you had that happen to you at all?
Yeah, I travel a lot. I'll be honest, though. I was the opposite. Until this new phase of my life that I'm in, I was the opposite with that whole thing. Is I was the guy with the AirPods in all the time, and most of the time I wasn't even listening or on the phone. I just didn't want to interact with the people around me, and I was very self-involved with my world. So, I fell victim to what society had turned into.
Yeah, and I would say I had the same thing too. A lot of times I would, if I was going to be, in an awkward situation where I was like, I don't know if I really want to talk to this person, so I'm going to pretend like I'm distracted by this phone. And now it's I'm trying to get past that. I'm trying to, where it's okay, I'm not going to use that as an excuse anymore. I'm going to try to make small talk with this person if I can.
And isn't the small talk kind of awkward, right? Because nobody does it anymore. It's I love getting on an elevator and everybody's buried in their phones, and I just turn to somebody and say, good morning. How was your day?
And then
Where are you from?
Especially with a worker or something, you're just hey, did you catch the game? And it's pretty much everything's foreign now. It's you're away from the phone and you're trying to just have just a little conversation with somebody, and they're yeah. Or if the person's on social media all the time, I have found this with friends, where they'll see you posted something, yeah, I saw you posted that, and then that's it. The conversation's over. If you want to talk about it all, yeah, this is going on in my life. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's crazy. They live their life out on social media, but whenever it's so hard to engage with them and draw that out of them in person. It's so easy for everybody to live behind a screen now. And I can say all this stuff after selling the company and not in the business anymore. I unfortunately was a part of selling the drug.
You started this.
But most people, they're so comfortable behind a screen that they forgot how to be personable and interact with other people. And I think with my latest project that I'm launching, I'm hoping to undo some of the damage that I did in the beginning of my life and start getting people to talk again.
And what's the plan? What's the move? Are you allowed to tell a little bit of it?
Yeah, no, it's pretty exciting. We launched several months ago. Quickly ran out of product and are waiting for manufacturing and shipping to figure all this mess out so that we can get more product in. But it's been an overwhelming success so far. But basically, what it is that I took a look at the world around us, and gosh, I just realized that in today's world, like you and I were just talking about, we just seem to kind of like judge and dismiss and move on. And we kind of remain divided, right? I mean, we don't engage with each other anymore. We just kind of glance up. I look at you. I kind of make a quick judgment about you. I don't want to talk to you, so I bury myself in my phone, and we move on. And again, we just, we remain divided. So I wanted to create something to where, and what really inspired this is my youngest daughter, and she was 6 at the time. She's just turned 9, and man, I looked around at the world she was living in and thought, gosh, what is it? What is the world that she's growing up in? What does that look like in the future? Where does this all change? Where does it all stop? Where do we start treating each other with dignity again and show each other the value that we truly carry? And so me and a couple of other guys, we co-founded a company and a brand called Vital, and so it's a water bottle that is designed to do 3 different things. So first and foremost, the reason we call it Vital, VIDL, but that's the vernacular spelling of Vital, VITAL, is it's to tell someone in your life that they're vital to you. And so when you give it as a gift, you're literally telling that person you're vital to me. And each bottle comes with a card to where we hope you handwrite why that person's vital. And if you're sending it to them on our website, you can go ahead and type in the message, and we'll print it out on the card and send it along with them. But the bottle's designed to tell someone they're vital. And then the second piece is this pop of color, which is also a detachable base. See, I've got my AirPods in there in case I need to, in case I need to ignore somebody. It comes with these different interchangeable colored bases. And they act as a pop of color, and this pop of color is just a constant reminder to you that are carrying it that you're vital, but it also encourages to kind of look for the vitalness in others, because we all have it. And then, finally, the third thing that it's designed to do is start, and this is where it gets really fun, is start new and different conversations. So if I'm carrying my Vital bottle and I see you in a Starbucks line and you've got your Vital bottle and you've got a white one with the pink base on there, the bottle's designed for me to kind of say, well, hey, I see that you're carrying a Vital bottle. I got to ask, what does that pink mean to you? What's that all about? And then which you're going to tell me the story of why it is you chose the pink base or somebody chose it for you. And I'm going to be like, wow, that's really cool. And you'll ask me why I chose the blue or the purple or whatever. And I'll tell you my story. And it's about breaking down barriers. And remember, as you and I were just talking about that awkward small talk of, instead of at the water cooler, you're sitting there going, hey, did you see the game last night? And you're actually talking about real things, real life. So it's starting new and interesting conversations, and so anyway, that's kind of what we're really kind of focused on is letting people know that they're vital, that they have value and they have worth, and that's just by God's design. So
I mean, that's basically where I got the idea for not the bottle, but the podcast, is like, because we're become so antisocial. And I started doing DoorDash not too long ago. I was being the delivery driver. I started getting to interact with more people and started being around more people. And then just one day, I seen this older gentleman. I went into a Quaker Steak and Lube, and I decided, like, I want to ask him what he did with his career, what he did in his life. And he was a hostess at this Quaker Steak. And once I started asking him questions, that's when he began to tell me that he used to be a bank manager, like one of the top banks. And I'm thinking to myself as he's telling me this story, like, holy crap, who would have ever knew this guy that's sitting sitting you down at a table used to be in charge of running the show, he was running a bank, but nobody knows. Nobody's, you wouldn't be thinking that.
And that's the thing is we all have a story, and it's not, and a lot of times our story isn't even what we're currently doing, right? I mean, his story was, who knows, right? I mean, it could have been his level of success that he hit, and then he was done when he wanted to retire, or he didn't want to sit around. He wanted to give back. He wanted to interact with people, and I mean, we all have a story. So, and I love your your podcast about trying to figure out what people's stories are, because we all have them. And if the crazy thing is a story starts to explain our differences. A story starts to get us to understand our commonalities, and a story truly starts to bridge a divide. If we could just get back to appreciating each other's stories, where we came from, why we believe what it is we believe, and try to learn from that instead of dismiss it, man, I think the world would be a better place.
I know, and that's kind of my goal with this podcast, is the people to see this and be inspired. To, instead of just thinking about people just driving by you or walking by you, actually take the time when you're in the line to actually reach out to that person and kind of have a conversation with them, get to know the person. And just this past year, I believe COVID has really, I don't want to talk about it, but because I know everybody hates hearing it, but I believe COVID has actually pushed us more further away. And my goal, like I said, with this podcast is just people to see these stories and then be inspired by them and just bring everybody back together. Give somebody an idea to say, hey, maybe I should get to know this person next to me and actually see, because like I said, you never know the person's story, what they could have done.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're trying to do with this bottle, is just spark those conversations. And what we're trying to do with this bottle is give them a entryway. Instead of you just having to awkwardly come up to someone and start a conversation out of thin air, or to sit there in silence and sit there and think about what it is I want to say or what I want to ask to start the conversation. The bottle is that breaks down that barrier, right? It just starts the conversation immediately. I've got to ask, why did you choose that color? And boom, you're off and running after that.
Your bottle's going to be called the Icebreaker.
Yeah, it could be. No, we're going to call it Vital.
It's going to become popular enough that I'm going to see it in movies, and they're going to use it as the pickup line. I'm like, I got a bottle, you got a bottle. Awesome. It could happen. I was going to say before we move from this topic, another person that I seen not too long ago happened to be at Walmart. Kind of goes with it. I decided to ask him a question. An older gentleman, I was getting an oil change. And this guy, he began to tell me a story. He said, before there was Myers, before there was Walmart, before there was Kroger's, any of the big name brands that we know to this day, he had his own grocery store, and he ran it for 30 years, had a store for 30 years, was the general manager, everything, all that, ran it, and then once Myers came into town, of course, they took him out of business, and then he went over there, became the general manager of Myers, and helped them become what they are now. And that was another thing, I was just thinking to myself, it inspired me more to do this podcast, because it's man, this is the second person I've run into that had an incredible story that I would have never, sitting next to this person, if I could have just sat there and been quiet and waited until played around on the phone and waited. until the time was my car was ready. But I decided to engage in a conversation with this guy, and man, was I amazed when I heard his story. Like, wow.
Isn't the power of a conversation? And you mentioned it. Yes, the COVID, I believe, has absolutely just driven this. It threw fuel on the fire. It is just driven us further and further apart. And we're talking less and less. And if you and I have the same goals, if we could just get people sharing their stories again and talking again, it's mind blowing. You've had 2 experiences recently of just, I don't know, powerful moments of inspiration.
That is the best way to put it. Powerful moment, speechless, and kind of motivational in a way, It inspired me to do this.
It's pretty cool. That guy's story is pretty amazing, right? Most people, when they're confronted with a situation like that, would hate the company that put them out of business after 30 years and would almost lay down and be a victim. But he said, well, maybe this is an opportunity, right? He said, okay, they're here. Nothing I can do about it. I can't stop them. They've squashed me. So how do I join them and make them better? What an incredible story. How inspirational is that? That was a path he chose.
Yeah. And then, he could have easily, could have just retired, could have just gave up completely. But anybody that's listening right now, I hope that story motivated you to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep it going, man. Don't give up when the cards get tough. Keep going.
I'd go find him again and get him on your podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, man, I wish I would have kept his name. Wish I would have got his contact information. But, the podcast right then and there wasn't even a thought. It didn't hit me until, afterwards. But, yeah, I have thought about it. I'm like, man, maybe I should go get an oil change and maybe it'll be there again. It'll possibly be there. I happen to run into him again and be like, dude, I've been talking about you all over the place. Telling you about my story. And then he'll be like, yeah, I just BS that whole story. I made it all up.
Exactly.
I'm like, dude, damn, I've been telling everybody this story. But let's get to know more about you. Let's know more about your story.
Yeah, that's, I think I've told you just about everything I can about me. I'm just a farm boy that grew up working hard, and I've gotten lucky throughout my life. I've been extremely blessed, and, just keep grinding it out. And, I just firmly believe that if you're truly trying to better the lives of those people around you, that success will follow. Opportunities will show themselves, and that's what I just plan on doing for the rest of my life. One of the things that I'm very excited about this new project is that alongside this project is that a very large portion of the proceeds of our bottles are going to go to support a foundation that we've started called Two Hands, One Heart. And what it does is it looks to discover what people around the world find as their needs that are vital. For instance, I can tell you a story about I helped plant a school in Cambodia, and on right before COVID hit, we were heading over to Cambodia to do a ministry trip there to the school, and I asked the director there, his name's Jesse, hey, could you go out in the community and find a vital need that needs to be met? And I want to see what that would look like. So he went out and he found this gentleman. His gentleman's name was Vanny. Now, Vanny had 2 small children, and to him, what was vital to him was 4 walls and a lockable door. And the reason is that Vanny would get up every day. The wife was no longer in the picture. He had 2 small children, and he had to go find work every day just to try to make money to feed them that day. So when he would leave, he left his kids exposed to all the elements, and you use your imagination on what that is, So the kids wound up going to our school, So me and a few other, several others went over there, and we had Jesse set it up, and he got all of the materials, and we went over there brick by brick and built this man 4 walls and a lockable door. So
hold on, wait a minute. Can you describe just a little bit of what it was like? Just, I mean, the whole thought of bringing the school into your reality. You thought about it, you planned it all out, and then once it actually started coming into play, what was it like? How were you feeling in that moment?
It was amazing because obviously he didn't speak any English and I didn't speak Khmer. None of us did. Jesse, who is Cambodian, so he speaks Khmer obviously. He would show up every once in a while just to kind of see if we needed more materials and what we needed, and we were able to converse through him. But by the end of the 2 weeks, it was almost like we working side by side with this man, and you're learning his story by watching him interact with other people in the community and with his kids. And it's amazing when you can't speak the same language how you figure it out. But it was like at the end we could really communicate, even though we didn't speak the same language. But it was absolutely amazing just to watch his kids come back after school and see the walls just a little bit higher. And I have these amazing pictures of just these kids with these huge smiles on their faces, standing inside the 4 brick walls, and they were playing around in there. And what was really cool is to be able to step back and just kind of see Vanny, like, realize this has happened. And, just to kind of see him seeing his kids appreciate and enjoy how this is going to change their lives. It was amazing. I mean, that's where my heart really lies. That's why the proceeds of this bottle are going to go to support things like that all over the world. That's what I want to spend the rest of my life doing, is figuring out how do we find out what's vital to people and help them achieve that.
So you would say basically, like, after it was all said and done, you just had it, like, you have that hunger now that you want to just keep it going. You're like, dude, that felt incredible. I want to just keep this train rolling.
Yeah, for sure. That was we had come up with the idea of Vital probably about 8 months before that, and whenever I knew what I wanted to really do, I mean, obviously I don't want to manufacture and sell water bottles for a living. That's just not what it is. But I knew that from this latest project I'm doing, I wanted it to do good in the world. So yes, getting people to communicate again, getting people to focus on what's vital to them, getting people to share stories about what's vital to them, but I knew we could do so much more with it. And so yeah, it really, just going over there and testing this whole theory in a small fishing village in Cambodia was it was inspirational and a catalyst to me getting this off the ground.
And, like, how do you feel, like, knowing that in the future you're going to get a letter from one of these kids that you helped, and you inspired one of them? They're going to write you a letter in the future, and just tell you, like, who knows what they'll end up doing, but...
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, I would love to know, what the trajectory, how their trajectory of their life changed, just by having the safety and security of a very small, home. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I haven't thought about what if I ever received a letter, in the future from one of them. I don't know what I would do.
Got you speechless over there.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know. Yeah, well, that's going to happen now. You got to be looking forward to it. It's going to happen. They're going to write to you. They're going to tell you about how thankful they were for you, that, to make that possible for them. And that's just a great thing, though, man. And then...
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Can you describe more, like, what the culture was over there, that the way the listeners can understand?
Yeah, I mean, if you know anything about Cambodia, just how tragic that country is. And if you don't know, I'll do my best to try to explain it. But it's I don't know if you've ever heard of the Khmer Rouge. And what they did is that they back in the 70s, I think it was, they kind of came into power in Cambodia. And what they did is they killed most of the countrymen. So they killed off millions and millions of people, just devastated this country for generations to come. So children lost their parents. So children were raising themselves. They never learned how to really parent, and then now they're having children. And the leader of the Khmer Rouge was so crazy that if you wore glasses, he would kill you, because that would mean that you were smart. And how he would go about that is he was so paranoid that that his name was Pol Pot. He was so paranoid that he would bring you in and torture you beyond anything you can imagine. Try to find out who you knew that didn't support him. And you were tortured so bad you would just make up names at the point. I mean, you would turn on your friends, your family. I mean, and then they would go gather them up and do the same to them. So it wasn't even just that they killed them. It's called the killing fields. They made movies about it. I know Angelina Jolie, there's a book written, a very powerful book called First They Killed My Father. And Angelina Jolie actually made a movie about it. And it's just an absolutely war-torn, devastated country. And yet the people over there are just unbelievably grateful. They're just always so happy, and they're constantly smiling, and they're so warm and welcoming, especially to the Westerners. They're so eager to learn. The kids are so, they're just, it's hard to describe. They'll just run up to you and give you a hug. They're so trusting in a country that should not have any trust left in it. You know, I mean, they should be, they should, the stories are much bigger. You know, I mean, it was during the Vietnam. We were on the wrong side of that here in the United States, so we allowed the Khmer Rouge to kind of come into power. They should, by all rights, kind of hate Westerners, but they just don't. It's just a very loving, compassionate country, and I love it. I absolutely love it over there.
And then, I was just thinking about, how warm and hugging and all that, and it's like, you're thinking about that here in our own country, here in the U.S., if that were to even happen in the slightest bit, people would be like, whoa, wait a minute, why are you touching me for?
Exactly. It's amazing. I mean, it's nothing like you'll experience here.
It kind of, it just leaves you at an awe, and you're like, man, I kind of wish that was a little bit more like this at home.
Yeah, I mean, to go to a country where what you do for the people or with the people is so appreciated, and I think that's something that's lacking in our country these days, is just appreciation for one another, appreciation for the things that are around you, that you have access to, the things that people are willing to do for others. I think it's just, you experience it so much differently over there, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then, I mean, especially when you do it here, you help out other people, and people look at you like, what do you want? What do you want?
Yeah.
It's like, nothing. I just want to see you smile. I just wanted to help you out, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Whenever I was doing some research for Vital, I sat, and I don't, this is not a reflection of Starbucks in any way, shape, or form. This is just happens to be the establishment I was sitting in and witnessing this. But I was sitting in Starbucks enjoying my coffee, and I watched an interaction at a door, and I sat there for about 45 minutes studying it. and watching people go in and out of a door. And I saw a glimpse of the good in humanity, but mostly I saw the worst in humanity. Like people walking up to a door with their hands full, and the person in front of them just kind of opens the door, kind of steps out and lets the door close on the person behind them. I mean, nobody even looked behind them to say, hey, can I hold this door for you? Or nobody looked behind because they're all focused on themselves. And then you'd have people that were trying to the people that were coming in the door, while people with coffee were trying to get out the door, and the people with nothing in their hands wouldn't even hold the door. They would walk in while the person with coffee would hold the door, and then it was unbelievable to sit there and witness all of this thinking, gosh, what happened to humanity? What happened to looking out for the other person? What happened to acts of kindness, like holding a door for somebody? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that we've lost that art of looking, how can I help somebody else out?
And the truth behind that is it only takes one person to do it. I mean, you might really, when it comes down to it, you might not really think about it. But say you're that person that holds the door for somebody. That, you know, one of the people that you open the door or hold the door for, they're gonna think that in, and then it's gonna get passed on. They're gonna do it for somebody else. They're gonna do it for that next person, and it's gonna continue to go. So, the person that's listening right now, you want to be the change of the world. It only takes you, the one person. You can make the difference in this world. It might not look pretty around you, but it only takes the one person.
Yeah, that is so true. At Vital, we say, an act of kindness has a ripple effect and knows no bounds. Because you really don't. I mean, you open that door for somebody else and you say good. You look them directly in the eyes and say good morning. How does it change their day? You just don't know what that small act does. And then, like you said, if maybe it impacts them so much that next time they open the door and say good morning to somebody, and then how does that change that person's day? And it's amazing. The smallest act of kindness could have the ripple effect that knows no bounds.
And that's all we need in this world. Again, we need to adapt and bring that back. Bring it back to like our reality. And just start opening doors. Start saying like, "Hey, how's your day?" And actually listen to what the person has to say, not just say, "Okay." Because a lot of times we're like an autopilot, I would say, where people are like pretty much say the same response. Like you say, "Hey, how's today going?" And then the person says what? Pretty good. And then that's it. The conversation's over.
Yep. Just chit chat, small talk. That's what we're hopeful that people, as they carry our bottles. I know for me, and it's what I hope for everybody. But as you carry our bottle, we hope that you start to try to live a vital life. And we define vital life as a life of gratitude, openness, and kindness. And if you're just a little more grateful and more focused on the good instead of fixating on the bad in life, a little more open to a conversation, and not a conversation that's meant to change your mind in any way, but a conversation just meant for you to learn something. And then obviously just kindness. If we could all just start to be a little more kind to one another and show each other just a little more grace and kindness, I think we change the world. And that's what we're going to try to do with this product is we're going to try to encourage people to live a vital life.
And then, okay, for the person that's viewing this video, your bottle is actually a water bottle, correct?
It is. Yes, it is.
That way nobody gets the wrong idea.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's a double stainless steel, vacuum insulated, keeps it cold, hot, all that fun stuff. But yeah, it's a metal stainless steel water bottle.
And so that anybody that's interested in your bottle, how much are you pricing it at?
So the bottles retail for $39, and with that you choose the lid type you want, whether it's a straw, a chug lid, or a standard lid, and then that comes with two the different colored bases on the bottom.
Now on the bottom is the logo? Is it at the Earth? Did I see that?
Yeah. So no, the logo is just the Vital symbol. We call it the heart, and then the other logo is the word logo of Vital. But I'm glad you noticed that. So yeah, on the whereas you'll be able to choose your color of the base, we have 6 different views of the world. You cannot choose your view of the world. It's just randomly generated. It's etched in the bottom. And we did that because we want everybody to understand and realize that there's vital people all over the world, and that it doesn't matter who you are, as long as you're on God's earth, you're vital.
Smart, good idea. Smart thinking, man. Where can they find your bottle at?
We just do direct to consumer through our website, which is vidallife.com, VIDL life.com, and they can place their order there. Like I said, unfortunately, right now we're currently out, but we're expecting a shipment hopefully in the next 3 weeks. But yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right, let's get some interesting facts about you before we wrap this up.
Okay.
The first question is, tell me about your childhood and what was the best part?
Childhood. Growing up on a farm, I would say the best part was, I'm going to say watching my uncle, or actually my uncle teaching me how to rope and cattle, and watching him do rodeos. So it was, I don't know why that just stands out to me, but that was just such an amazing, impactful part of my childhood is just living the cowboy life.
Now, it's kind of probably a silly question, but did you ride the horses? Were you the cowboy on the farm, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
And then
all that. Yep.
Okay, then that pretty much kind of, I think, answered my next question. Who was the most? Who inspired you the most in your life so far?
I've had a lot of people inspire me, and I know that this is going to sound cliche-ish and stuff, but I would say for me, the person that has inspired me the most is just is Jesus Christ, and I would say not even just Jesus Christ as the Son of God. That's for people to try to figure out on their own, but Jesus Christ, the man. You can't argue that he was an actual man that walked this earth. And if you really look at how he behaved towards others and the kindness he had and the love he had and how he carried himself and how he interacted with others, Jesus Christ, the man, to me, has been the biggest inspiration in my life of how I would want to live and how I would want people to view me. That's kind of my take on it.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that at all, man. I mean, that's kind of my advice to a lot of people that, seem to be battling, going through a storm or something. And I always like to, kind of bring up the spiritual way, saying, you got to think, a lot of times in your past, you thought, oh, I'm not going to be able to get through this. I'm not going to make this. And I'm like, you did, though, didn't you?
Yep.
And that's my way of saying he had your back 100% then. He's still got your back 100% now.
Amen. Yep.
And then it's like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I said, another day, another blessing. Because today is a fresh start, man. God woke you up today for a reason. You're still here for a reason. Anybody that's watching right now, you are here for a reason. Be happy, man. Be happy. Take it all in. All right. Let's see. Just a couple more questions. Tell me about a time when you didn't know if you would make it. Pretty much kind of going into what I just said.
If I didn't know I was going to make it, well, I'll tell you, it was probably when I mentioned that I had the 120 AT&T stores across the nation, and there was a catastrophic change in the business, and I was in a growth mode, so I was very exposed at the time of the change, of which then I was forced to sell that business, and it was most of 2017, and that I struggled hard that year trying to navigate what this looks like. How do I save the business? How do I save all these employees? How do I save their jobs? And if I'm forced to sell, who do I sell to where I know they're taken care of the way I've taken care of them? And there were many, many, many times through that year where and I questioned everything. I didn't know if I was strong enough to make it through all of that. It was if it wasn't for my faith, as you and I just talked about, if it wasn't for my faith, there's no way I would have made it. No way I would have made it through that year.
And what would you say, like, during those times when you were really, I mean, it was just everything wasn't going well for you, just everything, like you were just feeling it piling up on you. What were you like? What would you like? What should I say? What inspired you? What, like, did you pray more? What were you doing that helped that out?
Very much prayed hard. I really poured myself into a relationship with God. I mean, I thought I had a good relationship with God. I didn't know what a relationship with God actually looked like until I poured myself into Him and that, and put myself in His hands and just said, guide me through this. What are the right answers? What am I supposed to be doing with all this? And honestly, when He saw me through all that, and I witnessed the blessings in all of it, it is what fueled me to start this company in Vital, and just to let everybody else know that they're vital. I mean, He absolutely showed me that I was vital in that year.
And it just opened the door for you, and just helped you like see it clearly.
Very much so. The things happened in that year that answers, whether it was prayers that were answered or just answers themselves that never should have come to light, they just did. And things that never should have fallen into place did, to allow me to hand my company off to another company, to where they took care of the employees, to escape with a team of people to start other businesses with. I mean, and then along the way, just all the little things that He did throughout that none of it should have happened the way it did. None of it should have happened.
So, the whole story, this is all you gotta say. Through the greatest storms, always come the greatest blessings.
Very true.
Mic drop.
Very true. Yep. Yep.
All right, the last question here, and everybody probably wants to know, who is the love of your life, and how did you meet?
Well, that would be my wife. Her name is Stacy, and she stalked me at my gym. So yes, I married my stalker 15 years ago. So I know I would come to the gym every day, and she was the manager at the gym, and she had to do inventory at the front desk every day at 4:30 when she knew I was coming in. And finally, I guess after enough times, I figured, okay, this is quite a coincidence, and I took the subtle hint and asked her out. So.
Can you describe what the first date was like?
Yeah, for sure. So the first date, now I had already been married, obviously, once, and I had a child from that marriage. And so the first date went very simply like this. I am never getting married again. I have a child, so I'm not doing that anymore. I've checked that box. I'm a workaholic, and I love to work, and I love to have fun. If you're good with all that, order whatever you want. And she just kind of smiled from ear to ear, like, yeah, you think so. And she stuck around, ordered what she wanted, and 15 years later, I'm married. I have another kid. I now live out in the suburbs with a white fluffy dog and a white picket fence, and so yeah, I guess the joke was on me.
And then I just could only imagine, like, kind of go back into the spiritual, like just God in that moment when you were saying, I'm not getting married again, I'm not having a child again, and God's like, you sure about that? You're making the decisions now.
Exactly. I talked a big game, but that didn't last.
No, How long did it take you before you changed your mind?
Actually, because of my situations before, I cautiously went at this. She was ready to get married after the first year. I finally proposed, I think, after year 5. So she hung in there. But no, it took me a while.
Were you more just like, because of the first marriage and everything, were you just kind of like, what was your feelings going on there? Were you just like, I don't know about this anymore?
Yeah, it was a trust thing. I mean, I had just gotten so burned, and it was a trust thing. Plus, I guess, in full disclosure, she is 10 years younger than me. So at the time, I was like 32, so she was 22, and I just was like, okay, you need to like experience a little bit of life, or I mean, so making her wait till she's 27 to get married, I thought was reasonable. So there was 2 things at play: my trust factor and the age difference of where she was.
And then once you finally got married to her and life began, how was that? Was it like a different feeling compared to the first marriage, or were you still kind of like on the wall?
No, for sure. But I'll tell you another reason why I'm doing Vital is because I really, even though we were married, I was building this large company of 120 stores across the nation. I was traveling all the time, and I really had a bad, I don't know, I was not a good husband. I kind of took it as, no, I'm doing all this for you. I'm doing this so you can have the nice house and the cars. And I never realized how vital she was to me. I was in the reverse. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm vital to you. So I'm going to do me, and there's nothing you can say about it. And it wasn't until that really hard year when that my relationship with God grew, but so did my relationship with my wife. And since then, it's been a game changer. I mean, I now look at her as a partner in life. I look at her as my true love. Like before, I can live without you, but there's no way you could live without me, type of thing. Now I'm proud to say there's no way I can live without her. So it's been everything about this Vital project. Everything has been life changing for me over these last few years.
I mean, that's how I feel about my marriage too. It's just, I know exactly how you feel. Like how you're saying it's all about me. It's that winning thing, It's in all of us. We want to be constantly winning. We're competitive at everything we do. We want to, be successful. I mean, sometimes that gets in the way. We got to realize, like, man, and that was probably the one thing that you were thinking too, was like, she's gonna get in my way. It's gonna cause a problem because I'm trying to build this up from the ground and make something out of it, and then she's gonna get in the way. But then it turns out you needed her all along.
I did, for sure.
And that's how I feel about my wife too. I'm like, man, I've needed you all along. You're making life so much easier, simpler.
Yep.
And now everything I do, I want to, like Bryan Adams says, I want to do it for you.
Yeah.
I want to do it for you. Before we go into a love scene, start talking about romance. Yeah, I'll just wrap this up. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I think you're doing great stuff. I'm prayerful your podcast just takes off and you inspire people and you start conversations and getting just people's stories out there. I think you're doing great stuff.
It's only the beginning. It's only the beginning, man.
Good for you.
But that's the same for you too, man. I wish nothing but the best. I know that you're gonna continue to grow and be successful at what you do. The water bottles, I know they're going to take off. If they aren't already.
I need a few of them to take off from the manufacturer. That's what I need.
especially with the new year coming in closely. It's already here. I can't believe 2022 is already almost here.
I know. Crazy.
But anyway, thanks once again. And
thanks, Chris. I appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks once again for being on the show. And I'm signing off. This is Chris. Peace.